capable of large supercells, damaging hail, perhaps even a tornado. Wind looks to be the primary threat, though, and as this system pushes east, cities like Memphis, Little Rock on high alert. Torcon tomorrow at 3.
Yeah, and it's just the beginning because heavy downpours and strong, dangerous winds could wash out any weekend plans as the system goes from the Midwest to the East Coast.
Yeah, it looks like a rough weekend for some, especially if you're holding tickets to a certain NFL game. We'll break that down.
That one is going to be fun to watch, not because of the quality of the play, but because of the weather.
It's going to be an absolute mess. People there are going to hate it. People watching at home, going to love it. You're watching Weather Unfiltered. Hopefully you love this, too. I'm Alex Wilson with Dr. Rick Knapp.
And that system is getting going in the plains. It's kind of like spring part 2 when we have our second severe season in the fall. So places like Oklahoma City and Kansas City need to watch for maybe late.
Some big matchups. Unfortunately, both likely to be affected by weather. I think the Fayetteville game, that's where we could see the delays because of thunder and lightning. Here's your forecast. Tomorrow, 2:30 at Razorback Stadium, we've got a good opportunity for thunderstorms, and it's going to continue through the game and even before the game. So getting to the stadium may be an issue. Obviously, pregame, warm-ups, things like that may be affected. If there's lightning, can't be out on the field. And of course, through at least the first half of the game, with rain and thunderstorms still possible, we could be looking at delays. So be prepared for that possibility, and maybe have some snacks in the car in case you have to go back out to the parking lot. And when we look at lightning bolt facts, a little bit about lightning bolts. 2 to 3 centimeters in width, average length, though, 2 to 3 miles. So not necessarily the widest, but they are longer. Speed of a bolt would be 270,000 miles per hour. So moving quickly. Lightning intensity forecast here around the Fayetteville area. Notice once we get to mid, even late morning, we're starting to see that elevated lightning by the afternoon. Places like Little Rock, Alexandria likely to see the thunderstorms producing the lightning, and we'll continue to watch that moving into places like Mississippi and Alabama through the late evening and overnight. Here's a look at the future radar. We look at Fort Smith up to Fayetteville. Again, mid-morning, I think thunderstorms start late morning into the early part of the afternoon. That's prime time. So here's 2 o'clock. Again, game time right around 2:30. So not ideal for any kind of pregame action. And even once the game starts, post 3 o'clock, we're going to still be dealing with at least some scattered rain, thunderstorms. I think the most intense stuff comes through during the early to mid part of the afternoon, but there could still be rain coming down. Even if we get rid of the lightning, we may still be sitting in the stands that are a bit soggy. Rainfall totals, Fort Smith up to Fayetteville, likely in that 1+ inch range. I think for Fayetteville, quarter from Fort Smith to Little Rock will bring the same. There's your South Bend forecast, USC at Notre Dame. Here's another spot where we've got rain, potentially rumbles of thunder too, Dr. Knapp. So 2 games we're going to be watching, not just for the rating implications.
No.
We give you a virtual view of the Pacific Northwest. Seattle doing Seattle things, right? It gets the reputation for being cloudy and rainy, and in the coming days, it's going to live up to that. So your virtual view, expect the clouds, expect the rain showers. And it's not just Seattle, but across sections of the northwestern U.S. We're going to see that storminess start to increase. So what are we expecting in terms of rainfall? Here's a look at the accumulations. We've also got some snow. We'll be talking about that. But in the rainfall department, plenty of areas in that 1 to 2, even 2 to 3 inch range across western Washington. A lot of, half-inch to an inch totals through parts of Oregon, as well as eastern Washington, and then the lower elevations of Idaho. Obviously, you get up into the higher elevations, Idaho, western Montana, and sections of Wyoming. That's where we're going to be dealing with the snow. And this is about right for places like Seattle. We look at the rainy season. When do things really pick up in the rainfall? Well, you can see early in the year, January, February, March, even April, fairly active when it comes to rainfall. Take a little bit of a break through the summer months, and then here in October, things pick up before they really start to increase November and December. And atmospheric rivers, they can be good, they can be bad, sometimes even deadly. Meteorologist Molly McCollum shows us how the largest rivers on Earth are actually in the sky. Here you have it. Yeah, Cleveland, it's going to be a rough game. So many times it's like those games that people at home go, wow, This is awesome to watch, but if you're actually sitting in the stands dealing with it, a whole different ball game. Not only do we have rain, but we've got winds here in Cleveland. So game time is 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We've got rain, we've got winds 15 to 20 miles an hour. And by the way, we've also got falling temperatures throughout the game. So actually pre-game temps up around 70, but through the game, we're going to be in those low 60s, even upper 50s by the time things are wrapping up. So pretty miserable to be out there. I got a dish at my house that says, what doesn't kill you makes you interesting at parties. So at least if you go, you will have a story to tell everybody, right? You'll be like, this one time I went to this game, and boy, it was miserable. When we look at the quarterback passing performance, we only have ratings on Tua, and you can see it's not bad. Maybe due to the fact that he plays in South Florida usually, so, you know, a higher likelihood of seeing the rain showers, thunderstorms, of course, there in Florida. Also, they're Dolphins, right? So it just makes sense. They do better in water. Cleveland, forecast looks like this. All right, through the morning, something spotty, and then we get into the afternoon, and here comes the rain, just coming down in buckets at times, especially, I think, through the mid-afternoon. That's when we could also see some storms. Severe weather going to be a possibility. By the way, you leave the stadium, still may be up against some rain through the late evening and overnight.
Sometimes affect the U.S. and a lot of times affect other land areas. So this can be a very dangerous time of year still.
Yeah, you know, we've seen October storms making headlines in previous seasons. People wondering, right, is this something we could see this year? And there is something worth watching into next week and perhaps even the end part of October.
Yeah, and this is one of those tropical waves that you and I often talk about that's going to get sheared and not going to develop quickly. So it's not going to turn.
Yeah, but those are the problems you've taught me.
Those are the problems. And the Hurricane Center sees that and sees that the models are showing. And this only goes out 7 days. I think the chances are greater than 30% if you consider maybe the next 10 to 12 days, because it might take a while for the system to get its act together. They don't like to develop in the Eastern Caribbean very often, even though the waters are warm there. But the Western Caribbean is such a powder keg this time of year, Alex, because the waters are the warmest of the year. It's more unstable with weaker shear there now than it has been all hurricane season long.
Right, we haven't seen anything, you know, here. And we also know once something gets into the Gulf, we've got problems. So Western Caribbean moving north could spell issues.
Yeah, now that wave is going to get into the Windward and Leeward Islands on about Sunday, and then it could develop in the Eastern Caribbean. I think the chances are lower of that happening. It's once it gets to the Western Caribbean, and who knows? Does it happen within the next week? Maybe or maybe not. But if it doesn't, look what the Euro suggests, that it really starts to ramp up there in the Southwest Caribbean, not this weekend, but the next weekend. And then all kinds of land areas are in play. And the question will be, will there be a trough to the north to try to bring it in the direction of the U.S.?
Right. And we've seen that again. Past several years, we've seen these powerhouse systems in the Gulf during the month of October. Follows where we would typically look this time of year.
Yeah. Now, you saw 1 or 2 dots historically in the Eastern Caribbean. I don't think this is the high probability event, but the GFS was suggesting development here, but now it's even getting on the Western Caribbean.
All right, we're starting off the weekend with a risk of severe weather. In fact, potent storms possible of producing gusty winds, damaging hail, even some tornadoes. And this system pushes east, so cities like Memphis, Little Rock on high alert on Saturday.
Yeah, and it's just the beginning, because heavy downpours and strong winds could wash out your weekend plans from the Midwest to the East Coast. This is the same overall weather system that started with the rain in Southern California. So we're in that time of year with coast-to-coast, mid-latitude beasts of systems.
Yeah, it's like last weekend it was the coastal areas that saw the wet and windy weather. Now we share the love with the I guess the Ohio Valley here into Sunday. Going to be pretty gross out there.
Sorry about the timing on a weekend again.
Yeah.
And I would urge everybody to tune in tomorrow morning to see if those Torcon numbers have gone up for any areas, because when you get closer to the event, it's easier for us to hone in on who's at greatest risk.
Yeah, here we are in the time of year where it's storms, where it's snow, where it's still tropical weather that we're talking about. We're going to break it all down for you tonight on this Friday edition of Weather Unfiltered. I'm Alex Wilson.
And I'm Dr. Rick Knabb. And when we look at some cities in the plains tonight, you go, severe weather tonight, it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
The sun is out.
Not going to happen, Dr. Knabb.
And dry. What are you guys talking about? And when you don't even see storms firing up before the sun goes down, you go to bed thinking nothing's happening.
Yeah.
But then what if you get woken up to lightning and thunder, and you get woken up to be a severe thunderstorm warning.
Yeah. So don't think, boy, they got it wrong, because here we are at 11 o'clock and nothing's happened. Could be a very late threat for areas across the Plain States. We start with a look at, we'll see what happens here in this game. A lot of exciting football to be played. Obviously, ranking repercussions with these games. Unfortunately, the weather may not be hospitable for either. Texas A&M and Arkansas, you can see we've got thunderstorms pregame, we've got thunderstorms during the game, and I do think there could even still be some spits of rain after the game. Lesser chances, though, as we get closer to the 6 o'clock hour. Now, temperatures aren't going to be our problem. We'll be in the 60s, but the rain and, of course, the lightning, that's what's going to cause the delays to pregame stuff and possibly to the game itself. Lightning bolt facts, a little bit about lightning bolts. They are, on average, pretty slim, 2 to 3 centimeters in width, but the average length of these, 2 to 3 miles. Speed of a bolt over 270, and that's making them, such a danger. They're erratic and unpredictable. We know we have thunderstorms, but you don't know where the lightning will strike. And unfortunately, being out in one of these open stadiums puts you very much at risk of being struck. Lightning intensity forecast. By the time we get into the mid and late morning, you can see those numbers or those values going up around Fayetteville. That continues into the early afternoon. As that line of storms moves east, so does the lightning potential. And through the late evening and overnight, we'll likely be seeing the thunderstorms continue across our southern states. Here's a look at what the radar will appear like in Fayetteville. Again, morning showers and storms, late morning showers and storms, and early afternoon brings the big show, we think. This would be the greatest risk of severe weather, and you can see even at 5, 6, 7 o'clock, we could still be dealing with some rain showers in the area. So post-game, you may also have problems. All right, I want to take you to your rainfall total forecast. Probably 1 to 2 inches up there in the Fayetteville area, given the shower and thunderstorm chances. Here's USC Trojans taking on the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame. Another place, Dr. Nab, where showers, maybe even thunderstorms, could truly rain on our game parade.
Yeah, great ride.
They're starting off the weekend with a pretty potent severe weather threat. We've got damaging winds, hail, even an isolated tornado possible. Now, the system pushing east throughout the weekend. We've got a lot of cities in play, including a Memphis, a Little Rock. Both have a torque count of 3 Saturday.
Yeah, and stay tuned into tomorrow. Maybe some of these numbers change for some of these cities. And it's just the beginning, because heavy downpours and strong winds could wash out a lot of weekend plans from the Midwest to the East Coast.
Yeah, on top of that, it's going to be windy. If you've got tickets to that Sunday Cleveland NFL game, at this point, I don't know that you can sell them, because usually within a day or two, people are like, wait, I think I know why you're offloading those.
I think, though, because the temperatures are not super cold, it might be one of the more tolerable bad weather games of the year when you consider what it will be like in Cleveland and Buffalo and Pittsburgh and Green Bay come December and January.
Great point, Dr. Nab. The Cleveland Browns fans, they've never shied from bad weather. This may be right up their alley.
Look, I'm a lifelong Dolphins fan. I have made a career out of taking bad situations and trying to see the positive.
You're like, now I'm not going, but you will be watching it on television.
Oh, I wouldn't pay $1,000. I wouldn't get paid $1,000 to go.
It's a tough sell. We welcome you into Weather Unfiltered on this Friday. We're going to be talking about that as well as lots of other topics. We got a little bit of everything going on. I'm Alex Wilson here with Dr. Rick Nab. We still have tropics. We've got severe. We've got snow. We've got a little bit of everything.
October has a long history of bringing it all.
Games that could be affected by active weather on Saturday. So let's get right to it. Your Razorback forecast there at the stadium in Fayetteville. The Aggies, we want things to be exciting, right? We didn't know if we wanted it to be weather exciting, but unfortunately, the vibe may be electric, as will the skies. We've got thunderstorms before the game, thunderstorms at game time, and perhaps thunderstorms sticking with us throughout much of the game. Even post-game, I think there's still the chance of some showers, maybe a rumble of thunder. Lightning intensity forecast. Of course, lightning's the thing that's going to cause you the trouble, right? You can play in the rain, you can play in the wind, but you cannot play in lightning. And when we get towards mid to late tomorrow morning, notice Fayetteville starts to see the lightning intensity forecast show those shades that would indicate it's present. Afternoon hours, early afternoon, parts of Arkansas again in play. Storms moving east, so that'll take the lightning into parts of like Mississippi by the mid to late evening hours, and then Alabama, Georgia overnight into early Sunday. All right, lightning, again, a problem in parts of Arkansas for the morning and the afternoon. Now, depending on where you are, western Arkansas, again, it's going to be morning into the early 30, and that's when the worst of the storms likely to roll through Fayetteville. You notice 5, 6, 7, there's still lingering wet weather across the northwest part of the state, and even, I think, even late evening, there's a chance. So you got to be prepared for it, and like I said, be thankful if the rain does let up for the walk back to the car or the drive home. 1 to 2 inches likely up towards Fayetteville. I think we keep it around, if not just under an inch, in Fort Smith. Notre Dame, another place that could see weather as a player in the game. USC coming to town. We've got South Bend, temperatures in the 60s, but chance of thunderstorms and rain showers. Dr. Knapp. All right, we are starting off the weekend with a potent severe threat capable of producing large supercells, perhaps some gusty winds, hail, even tornadoes. And as the system pushes east, Memphis, Little Rock, torcon of 3.
Yeah, I know it's not what you want to spend your Friday night doing, but tonight is the time to be thinking about, if I live in a mobile home, where do I spend tomorrow night? If I have to go take shelter in a tornado warning, where is that spot in my home?
Yeah, or, you know, could I go to somebody's house just for those few hours of the best storm chance? And I know a lot of folks also have plans to be outside at football, so we got to think about, you know, a way to get the warnings at the very least. Here on Weather Unfiltered, I'm Alex Wilson with Dr. Knapp. We've also got some weekend weather on our Sunday across the Ohio Valley.
Yeah, and with every severe weather event like we're going to have this weekend, a lot of times flooding on the roadways ends up taking the headlines because people underestimate that part of what these weather systems can do. And with the tornado and the flood risk, they're both more dangerous at night. Tomorrow night, it's going to be a dangerous time in and around the Mississippi River Valley.
Yeah, we're going to break it all down for you. We've also got snow in the west. We've got something tropically to watch. October's doing such October things, though, right?
And I'm going to make the bold step of saying that we could have another hurricane before this Atlantic hurricane season's over. Man, October brings it all.
Right, it's like the bags of the candy that you can really only get in October, right? All the variety packs, it's the weather version of that. But we're like, no one likes it. It's like the licorice. No one wants that. That's the hurricane.
And I used to put the candy on the table. My brother and I would, you know, barter over. Yeah, and I would like to negotiate away all temperatures lower than 60 for the rest of the month.
That was smart of you, and obviously better than what I did. My brother's still on vacation out overseas. I just stole it out of his bag while he was like sleeping. I just went back downstairs and I was like, I'm gonna take these peanut butter cups.
Man,
and then I gave him the stuff I didn't like.
I gotta watch that stash in my desk over here.
You do. I see it all the time. Hey, let's take it a lot of games that are taking place. Some of these could be affected by the weather. One of those is Arkansas. The Razorbacks are hosting Texas A&M. This is a big battle. A&M coming in ranked in the top 5. In Fayetteville, they're hoping to do an upset. The vibe will be electric, but the skies might be as well. Lightning chances with us pre-game, game time, and even some showers and possible thunderstorms through the second half and for your drive home. In fact, let's look at the lightning intensity forecast starting very early Saturday morning. We're going to be noticing the lightning, the thunderstorms into northwest parts of Arkansas Saturday morning around midday, even into the early afternoon. So unfortunately, I think we could be dealing with some lightning delays there. Just be prepared for it. And, you know, if there are storms in the area, check the radar. You may not want to work your way towards or into the stadium, knowing that a lightning delay could be in progress or in the future. We've got the thunderstorms continuing to move off towards the south and east, or I should say the east, as we move through the late evening and overnight, even Sunday morning, watching for some storms across parts of West Georgia and eastern Alabama. Fort Smith to Fayetteville, here's what the future radar looks like. We've got, again, the showers and thunderstorms mid to late morning on Saturday, but here comes the main event just in time for the game. 2, 3, 4 o'clock. Those strong, possibly severe thunderstorms sweeping through, and through the late afternoon, even into the evening hours, there still could be some showers scattered about. Probably not as much coverage, but at least some coverage. Fort Smith area, probably around an inch, 1 to 2 inches up towards the Fayetteville area. So some decent downpours coming out of these storms as well. Another game that could be affected by weather, USC at Notre Dame. We've got possibility of thunderstorms and rain showers with temps in the 60s there in South Bend. Dr. Knapp?
The big problem